So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for the cookery session today. My name's Nick and I'm the fundraising and marketing manager at NASCIO. And I think there's one or two people who've joined today who I don't think I've seen on previous Zoom events. So if anyone's not familiar with NASCIO Trust, we're a small charity based in Abingdon and we work to support vulnerable children in Western Kenya and their communities as well. So I'm delighted that we're welcoming Danny, who is on the screen there, top left, hopefully for you. Hi, Dan. Thank you for doing our talk today. Dan's going to be showing us a very healthy and easy recipe of fish cakes that you can put added spirulina to. So here's my little jar of spirulina. This is the powdered version. And I got this from Holland and Barrett down the road. You can order this from online health stores and all sorts of places, so it's easy to get hold of. And it's an absolutely amazing health food. It's a natural blue-green algae, and it's full of vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. It's got apparently 58 times more iron in it than its equivalent weight in spinach. So that just goes to show you how incredible this stuff is. And we are recording the session today. I can see some of you have got your cameras on, and it's great if you're happy to keep them on, because Dan would love this to be an interactive session. So if you are cooking along and you want to ask a question to Dan, you can either just unmute your microphones for a moment and speak the question out, or you can type it into chat and I can read it out to Dan. And there'll be the opportunity to ask questions if anyone would like to as we're going along as well. Try and keep your microphones turned off, please, unless you're actually going to ask a question. And that won't distract then if there's lots of background noises, if some of you are cooking along. Okay, let's just put this on to speaker view now. So I'm going to share, just before we start doing the cookery session, I'm just going to share, whoops, I do apologise. I'm just going to share. That wasn't supposed to happen, I do apologise. I just want to share a video with you, and I'm having a bit of a problem getting the video up. So I think I'm going to play that at the end when I've sorted it out. And we'll hand over to Dan, who's going to do an amazing cookery session first of all. So everyone get your cookery gloves on and off you go. Thanks, Dan, over to you.
Hi everyone, welcome. Thanks for joining us. I hope you can see me okay. I don't know if, I mean, at the moment, I've got just a tiny box of everyone. I don't know if your view is different, but I'll talk you through and try and be as clear as possible. I'm going to use this spirulina today, which is also from Holland and Barrett. And I think it's brilliant because, well, Nick's already told you how many nutritional benefits there are, but not only can we use it in these fish cakes that we're going to demonstrate today, but it can be used in all sorts of things. So I think it's really worth investing. If you get a big packet and we only need a teaspoon for today's recipe, then you can use it in other things like energy balls, smoothies. You can put a teaspoon in your salad dressing or in your fruit juice in the morning, and it's just a real extra immune boost. So it's worth investing in. You can also make these fish cakes without. I've sort of adapted the recipe to incorporate this. Okay, so let's get started. I don't know who's cooking along with me. I think there's at least a couple of you, and hopefully you have already made your mashed potato. I've kind of only done steps 1 to 3, so I thought I would do, and I think some of you might have done step 4, I don't know, but I'm going to start from step 4 onwards. So all I've done at the moment is just to boil a couple of medium-sized potatoes, and I've just literally dry mashed them over a very low heat, so I haven't added anything else to them. So now is our time to pop in a nice big heaped spoonful. I've made a tartar sauce here, which I know was on your recipe, but you can easily, if you're time short, you can easily just buy a jar from the shop. So we're going to put a nice big, I'm going to put 2 spoonfuls. I'm not very good at following recipes. I just kind of do it a bit more by instinct these days. So if you just stir and mash in your teaspoon or a couple of heaped teaspoons of your tartar sauce, just to make a bit more of a creamy mash, but you're also doing a real punch of flavour. It's not just butter. It's got capers in it, it's got spring onions, it's got parsley, it's got mustard. So you're just incorporating lots of flavour into that, okay? So once we've stirred that in, we're just going to simply add the ingredients. If you've got a lemon, we are going to zest it. So you can use like a proper lemon zester like I've got, or you can just use the smallest setting on your grater if you haven't got one. So zest of a whole lemon into your mash. Again, all we're doing is we're just adding and adding flavour. Okay, if anyone's got any questions at any point, please don't be shy. Even if you're not cooking with me today, if you've got anything that you need to ask, then that's exactly what I'm here for. So I hope I can, even if it's not to do with the recipe, I really don't mind. Anything to do with cooking.
Danny, I do have a question.
Yes.
I popped into Waitrose to buy the ingredients, and cornmeal. I didn't get cornmeal, so what could I substitute it for?
That doesn't matter at all, Chantel. To be honest, that was a bit of a fussy ingredient that's unnecessary. So you can literally just use breadcrumbs instead. You don't need to mix it. Or you could use all cornmeal if you didn't have breadcrumbs, or you could make your own breadcrumbs by just getting some stale bread and whizzing it up in the food processor. Okay, so don't worry about that at all. Just double your breadcrumbs.
Thank you.
Okay, so lemon zest is in. Got 4 lovely spring onions. All I'm going to do is cut off the very root end, and we're going to chop all the way to the top. Unless there's any like nasty straggly bits, get rid of those. But there's no reason not to use the whole spring onion apart from the root. So we're just going to finely slice. Is anyone doing this bit with me, or have you all already done it? Looks like you've done it.
I've done mine already.
Yeah, I've done mine too.
Okay, so I will be nice and speedy with my chopping. You can watch now. Okay, so we're just going to chop these as finely as you want to. Again, it's kind of up to you. You don't have to be really precise with something like a fish. You can even sort of choose your quantity of fish to potato, because, you know, if you're on a bit of a budget, then you just add a bit more potato. And if you're feeling a bit extravagant, you can sort of top up on the fish instead. And there's all sorts of fish that you can also use. It's really nice with salmon, especially if you've got like hot smoked or oat smoked salmon, which is quite pricey. So you probably just use, you know, like 1 fillet. We're going to make enough here to feed a family of 4, okay? Or some very hungry adults anyway, if not. So just, again, you don't have to finely chop everything. You can have it a bit chunkier if you want a bit of a more textured fish cake.
Dan, can you freeze the fish cakes if you want to double up the quantity?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. As long as the fish hasn't already been frozen, fresh fish, you can just make them and get them up to the stage that we're going to do today. I'm not going to put them in the oven. I'm just going to fry them for a few minutes on each side today. And then afterwards, I'm going to let you guys, if you want to eat them for lunch, then you can pop them straight in the oven. And if you don't, you want to save them for later, you can put them in the fridge and then put them in the oven later. But if you want to freeze them, then you definitely want to stop at the point where we're stopping today before they go in the oven, and just let them cool down and freeze them. And I don't know how long they would freeze well for, probably about 3 months. I think that's sort of the safety guideline on fish, but you need to double check that. Okay, so I've got my 4 spring onions, and in they go to the potato mixture, which is quite a lot. They were quite big spring onions. And the last thing we're going to add, well, not quite the last thing actually, because I didn't include spirulina. I forgot to adapt the actual instructions to include spirulina. So we're going to put that in as well. So again, parsley, a bunch, as much as you want. You could use a different herb if you didn't like parsley. You could use dill, would be a really good substitute. You could use chives. In fact, you could use chives instead of spring onions because they're all from the same kind of family. And I always include my stalks of the parsley, of most herbs, hence not thyme because it's woody. You don't want that in your mouth. If you just finely chop your stalks along with the leaves, there's absolutely no need. They've probably even got more flavour than the leaves, to be honest. So, okay, anyone got any questions, or are you all right? I know I'm sort of behind for once, aren't I? You've all very organised and done this.
Watching you chopping up though, Dan.
Pardon?
Nice to watch you chopping it all.
One question going back to the freezing is, do you have to defrost them or can you cook them from frozen then?
That's a good question, Chantal. I personally would defrost them in the fridge overnight. I just think it's safer to do it that way. I know that you can buy products, can't you? You can buy like frozen fish cakes that you can put straight. But because I never do that, I just wouldn't advise it. I think it's a better option. I think that they would cook and be nicer if you defrosted them. Otherwise, I think you're in danger of kind of overcooking the outside before the inside is cooked. So yeah, I would definitely defrost them. Got to be a little bit organised. Okay, so in with the parsley. And then this is where you join me, ladies, who are cooking along with me. You're going to put a teaspoon of your spirulina in now and incorporate it into your mash. It's good to have a tidy kitchen, clear up as you go. Lossy side coming out in me. Okay, so spirulina. I'm going to be quite generous and do like a bit of a heaped teaspoon. Thinking about all that spinach iron that we've got in there. Okay, so in with a spoonful of spirulina and just stir everything in. It's going to make them a really cool colour as well, actually. We're going to be eating green food.
It's a very strong colour, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, which in like a smoothie, I think is a really appealing sight, isn't it? You just automatically feel a whole lot healthier if you're drinking a big green smoothie. Okay, so make sure that's nice and even. And we're gonna season this now as well. Now, bear in mind, if you've made your own tartar sauce, you've got capers in it, so they're quite salty already. If you haven't got your homemade tartar sauce, I would do a really generous pinch of salt. I'm going to do slightly less because I have got some capers in mine. And then we're going to do as much pepper as you like. It's really personal. I love pepper. I'm going to count to about 20. Okay, and then again, mix all that in. And remember also that the smoked mackerel is also a bit salty. So you've got to take all this on board. And last but not least, we are going to add our fish. Okay, so we're going to remove the skin because we definitely don't want that. And just check for bones, because even though I've bought the filleted boneless, there is always a cheeky bone hiding amongst them. So especially if you've got small children, be really careful. I cook these for a nursery every few weeks, and it terrifies me, to be honest. One day, one of those little ones is going to get a bone. So just be careful and just flake your fish into your mashed potato. How are we all doing? Jules, are you with me? And Chantal, are you with me? And Sheila, it looks like you might be cooking as well.
It looks like Sheila is cooking them. We've got a question here, I think from Kenya. It might be Nancy, because this is the Nasi Trust at the top. It might be Nancy. Can I use, how do you say that? Tilapia, a fish locally found in Kenya.
Absolutely, you can use tilapia, yeah. It won't have as strong a flavour as the smoked mackerel, but you know, that doesn't matter. I like using the mackerel because of the sort of oily fish benefits, which is why I suggested salmon as well, because it's so nutritional, proper brain food, loads of omega. But tilapia is a great, all fish is great, so good for you. I think fish and children should go hand in hand. So yeah, nice white fish like tilapia is perfect. Okay, so just flaking in our fish. Get rid of that skin, checking for bones, and we're going to stir it all together carefully. Is everybody with me, Nick? Does it look, I can't see very well.
Scroll across, yeah, there's quite a few people on here without cameras on, but if you scroll across, yeah, there's quite a few of us now.
She's typing.
Dan, I seem to have huge quantities of fish compared to my potato. Is that normal?
Great. They are going to be lovely and fishy.
Okay, I'll carry on.
I don't think I stuck to the recipe ingredients, you see. That's probably why I've got a slightly more balanced ratio. But they'll be lovely and healthy and extravagant with all that fish in. So I'd say it's a winner all round. Okay, so your fingers are gonna be pretty greasy and not smelling too hot at this point. But that's all part of it. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands and then mix it all together. Okay, so we're just going to gently stir all of that together. Before we get all messy and start making our patties, I think we'll crack our egg and get our sort of dipping assembly line lined up. Oh, it's really green. It looks really nice, actually. It's like there's loads of spinach in there. Can you see the mixture? Just try and kind of evenly distribute that fish so that everybody's going to have a nice amount. Shouldn't be too difficult to do. And at this point, there's no reason why you can't just give it a little taste test. Check that seasoning. Everything's cooked, the fish is cooked. If you haven't got cooked fish, then don't, but hopefully you've got smoked fish, which is already cooked and you can eat it straight from the fridge. So give it a little taste. And just check that you've got enough salt and pepper to your liking. And you'll get a little first taste of what that spirulina is like. Good. I'm going to put a little bit more salt in, which is why it's always worth testing, same thing. A bit more pepper. And I'm going to put another heaped spoonful of my tartar sauce because I just want to sort of moisten it up a bit so that it sticks together really nicely. So you can do the same if you think you need to. So it should really have the consistency now of just mashed potato. It should be ready to kind of mold together into fish cakes. Okay, so this is really simple now. If you haven't already done this, which you might have done because I think the recipe says 1 egg beaten and a mixture of breadcrumbs, and keep your lemon that you've zested because you can just cut it up and serve each portion with a wedge of lemon, and then we don't waste anything either. Okay, so if you've got your breadcrumbs and your cornmeal, then I would put a nice big handful of each. Again, if you haven't got panko breadcrumbs, which I was quite specific only because they're my favourite and they're a bit crispier, you can use any breadcrumbs. So a handful of each into a bowl and just mix them together. I can't tell you why I mix it with cornmeal. I just quite like the added texture, the added flavour. It's not necessary. I think one day I'd run out of breadcrumbs, so I just thought, what can I use instead? And it turned out quite well. So, okay, so you've got a dish with your breadcrumbs and your cornmeal, or just your breadcrumbs. Then you're going to have a dish with your beaten egg, because we're going to do dipping, okay? Some people like to dip the fish cakes in flour first. I just don't see it as a necessity, so just skip that stage and we go straight into the egg. So just beat your egg. You should only need one egg. It should be enough to coat all of your patties. Okay.
Can I ask a question, Dan?
Yeah, of course.
Once you've made the fish cakes, if you don't want to eat them all that day, how long are they good for in the fridge?
I wouldn't, well, you have to check the dates of your fish. So it depends how long you've had your fish for, but that's the thing that's going to go off.
Yeah.
If your fish is well within date, I would say 3 days would be okay.
Okay.
With everything, the fresher the better.
Sure.
So happily make them the night before. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to shape. I think this should make about 8 fish cakes, okay? But it depends, again, on what size you want them. So it's entirely up to you. Again, no rules. I'm just going to take my ring off. And we're just going to get a sort of, what size are we saying? We're saying probably a small tennis ball. Wow, look at that colour. It's awesome. Look at that. The greenest of fish cakes. Okay, so I would make your patties first and just pop them on the worktop. And then we can do the messy bit all in one go. So if you sort of roll them into a ball and then just slightly flatten them so that it looks more like a fish cake shape or a burger shape than a ball, then they'll cook a bit more evenly as well that way. How's everyone doing? Looking good. I got a thumbs up from Jules. That's what I like. How are you doing, Julia? Yeah, you're good. Why was I calling you Chantel earlier? Sorry. Sheila, yeah. Sheila, was that a thumbs up? I think it was.
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Just found a bone. See, there's always one. Okay. So if you've got little children, then you could just make like smaller sizes, because sometimes it's a bit overwhelming for small kids to have this massive green looking cake in front of them. So I've got 4. See if we can squeeze 8 out of this. And then that's my family dinner tonight. So it's pretty useful doing this, Nick. Cook dinner in advance.
Really handy.
When does that happen? And you, Jules, hopefully. From everyone else. Maybe it's your dinner. Maybe it's going to be lunch. Pretty substantial lunch. And I would suggest, you know I've put a recipe for a chop salad on there, which you can happily serve it with, and the rest of the tartar sauce. It's really nice with just a fresh green salad, just dressed leaves if you're a bit time short. And it's, in the winter, maybe a few cheeky fries and some peas is quite nice as well. Just going to make that one a bit smaller because try and get...
Sorry, Dan. I will probably eat about 8 of them because I can't see Emily and Edward even touching one. So what's your top tip for children?
Oh, you just have to be persistent, I think. I think I started really young with them, so they'll just eat anything pretty much. There's certainly things that my children don't eat, like aubergine still and courgette, but I don't know, Jules, it's hard. I think if you don't get them young, it becomes much harder to sort of change their habits. I think if they were less green, they might be a bit more inviting to children. I don't know, it depends. Some children are really adverse to eating green stuff, aren't they? I don't know, I just always say to my kids, just try it. I used to pay them sometimes. I'd say, I'll give you 20p. If you have one mouth.
Might be a fiver, I think, not 20p, but yeah.
Yeah, 20p won't work these days, will it? It's more like a fiver. But when they were little, 20p was great. And I was like, all you have to do is try it. If you hate it, then you don't have to eat it. But try it. It's all you do. And you might be. And I didn't used to give them things that I knew they were going to hate. You know, it was usually something that I knew they would. It was pretty nice food. So I think that was my best weapon as a young, when I had younger children.
Excellent. I'll let you know how much it costs me.
Actually, quite rightly, as my lovely husbands have just said in the background, getting them involved in the kitchen. If they made those fish cakes with you, Jules, I bet you they would be about 10 times more likely to try them.
That's such a good tip.
Just a suggestion, because you know I was involved with the Green Power cookery book. So, well, one, there's a vegetarian similar.
This lovely thing.
Yeah, that's right. So Helen did a kale one for veggies. But of course, the other thing you can do with the spirulina is that you needn't necessarily put it in the cake. So if you wanted it still to look white, you can literally sprinkle a little bit on afterwards.
Yeah, or you could add it to the tartar sauce.
Yeah, exactly. So then it can look the same as, you know, as they used to. But you can still get them to have the, you know, they can sprinkle a little bit on themselves as well, which that's more fun perhaps for them, you know.
That's such a good idea, Sylvia. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's all about involvement, isn't it? And sort of a little bit of control. If you give them a little bit of control, then they're much more likely to, because quite often we have dinners that are just like lots of things in the middle of the table, and they can assemble, like, I don't know, like last night we had halloumi with like big pita breads and a homemade like yogurty spinachy dip and some cut up salady bits, and they can just choose what they want to put in. And actually, you know, they ate everything. They didn't even bat an eyelid. So I think if you do give them some choices, I think they're more likely to get involved and excited rather than just being told what to eat.
In fact, my grandchildren, who, well, she's 8, she doesn't eat often a lot of vegetables, but she, for some reason or other, loves the recipe that Helen put for kale chips. You know, it's so simple. It takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
In the oven, and you can't see the spirulina anyway because it's so green, the kale.
Yeah.
But because it's crispy.
Yeah.
They eat it by the bucket load, and it's so healthy. So you're getting everything you need.
Well,
and literally 5 minutes to cook. That's all.
Brilliant. That's a really good recipe. I'm going to try that one then. I haven't tried that one yet. Okay, so is everyone ready to get involved with the messy bit? So all we're going to do is we're just going to coat each fish cake in egg, and then we're going to put it straight into the breadcrumbs. I use kind of one wet hand, one dry hand. So just keep this for the egg, and then otherwise you get it all stuck to both hands. And then just turn it around in the breadcrumbs so that you've got a nice even coating. You can put it onto a big plate, or you can just put it back onto the work surface. Let the egg drip off a little bit. Next one, give it a shake it into the breadcrumbs, just coat it, turn it over. Okay.
Brilliant. It's the messy bit like that the kids will love doing, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. This is such a good recipe to do with a child. It's nice and tactile, isn't it? And it's nice. They love a bit of a mess, and it's nothing complicated. It doesn't matter if the measurements are out, because it just doesn't matter. It's not like baking. It's not scientific, this recipe at all. Okay. I teach kids. That's why I'm always talking about how to cook for children, because it just works. I used to teach an after school club, and most children absolutely love getting involved in the kitchen, and it doesn't have to be just sweet stuff. you know, everyone makes fairy cakes and all of that, but you can make fish cakes is a great one to do with your family. Do your as little, you know, you can do this with tiny hands and just make them smaller.
Brilliant. We have Nancy saying, thank you, Dan, you're making it look so simple.
Oh, you're so welcome. It is pretty simple, to be honest. Okay, so it's much nicer than buying your own. I'm going to tell you, those who have made them, hopefully you'll agree with me when you taste them later. Okay, what time are we on? We're nearly there. We're just going to fry them for a couple of minutes on each side, and then that's it. Just to get some colour on them, really, because if you put them straight in the oven, they just wouldn't have that nice kind of golden brown coating that's very appealing to the eye, I think. You need a little bit of oil just to... You can use whatever oil you prefer when you're going to cook them. I'm going to use olive oil. I can't remember what I put in the recipe. Rapeseed oil is another favourite of mine, but I'm going to use olive oil. You can use some sunflower oil as well. I think there's more nutritional benefits. Sorry, that's my brother. Linked, isn't he, to my computer, even though my phone's on silent. The joys of live demonstrations. I'll talk to him later. I'll tell him off.
Well, my video didn't work earlier, so you had to make a mistake.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to wash our hands and we're going to get our pans heated up. It's always a good idea to heat your pan before you put your oil in. Okay, so I've got a nice big non-stick frying pan, which I would recommend you use. I could probably get all 8 in at once, and match your hob size to your pan size. And I would have it on a medium heat because you don't want to burn. But remember, everything's cooked in there. So all we're doing is we're getting some flavour from the oil, some colour from the frying. That's kind of the main purpose, and obviously warming it all through, but the oven will finish off doing that later. Okay. So whilst that's heating, I'm just going to have a bit of a clean up. Has anyone got any questions at this point, or are you all right? You seem to be asking as you go, so that's great. So just let that heat up for like 30 seconds. Feel some heat coming through there now. So I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons. Don't want too much, but you do need to get some colour on there. So you do need them all to be sitting in a very small amount of oil. Okay. So this is where I regret not putting them on a plate. Okay, so just you can test if the oil's hot enough. You don't want it to go in too early because they'll just sit in oil, and that's not what we're after. We're after a bit of noise when they hit the pan. So you can stick one of your breadcrumbs and just see if it starts to like sizzle a bit. And if it does, you know the oil's hot enough. Mine's doing exactly that now. So I'm going to add them in. Don't have it too high, don't have it too low. You want it to kind of just be sizzling gently. The equivalent of a simmer, I suppose, if you were boiling water and then you turn it down to a simmer, is what we're after. So you can just hear them cooking nicely, but you don't want them smoking away. I'm gonna squeeze my 8 in, I've just made it. I'm just going to turn it up just a tiny bit, get some colour on them. So if you're cooking them straight away, turn your oven on to about 180 now, because as soon as they are coloured, so 2 to 3 minutes on each side, but you can check to see, you know, as soon as you start smelling it, it's always a really good indication that it's kind of ready. It's like when you're baking, if you can start to smell that cake and those cookies, it's pretty near to being ready by that point. So use all those senses when you're cooking.
Danny, we've got a couple of questions here.
Yeah, fire away.
Chantel's asking, what would you recommend to have with the fish cakes?
Yeah, okay, so I would recommend on a nice sunny day like today, I would have it with just some nice dressed salad.
Yeah.
In the winter, I would probably carb it up a bit with some nice green veg, either peas or tender stem, something like that, whatever your favorite is. And I would probably throw a few oven homemade wedges or chips in there. They don't have to be unhealthy, the chips. They can still be nice and healthy. And there's also on the recipe, Chantel, there is a recipe for a chop salad and a tartar sauce. Or you could make a Mary Rose sauce. That's always nice with fish as well, which is really simple. It's just a combo of mayo, ketchup, squeeze of lemon juice, bit of Worcestershire sauce, that one. Lea and Perrins, basically.
Lovely. And thank you. And Keith is asking what other dishes could be enhanced by using spirulina?
You could make lots of lovely smoothies. You could make something called energy balls, which you can Google really easily for a recipe, somewhere like BBC Good Food, and then just add a teaspoon to your recipe. You can put it into pesto if you made like some homemade pesto, which again is so simple, and you could stir it through your pasta. You could add it to your salad dressing if you just made a simple vinaigrette and put some in there. Smoothies, have I mentioned smoothies as well? And you can put a little bit into your orange juice if you have it in the morning, or whatever your fruit juice is, just as a shot of energy and immune boosting. I'm just going to turn these over, Nick.
Lovely. And I'll just mention, obviously there's more recipes in our cookbook, which I'll talk about at the end of the session.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Nick, you said yourself that you can add it just to water, can't you?
Yeah, I tried it just with water because that's what it says on the back of my spirulina powder. But I have to say the taste was probably a very acquired taste. It's probably nicer mixed with food.
Yeah, I would agree there. I remember when I was like 20 odd years ago and we went to New Zealand, we went traveling, and we used to have spirulina smoothies. And they were amazing, especially on a hangover, actually. I mean, obviously, that doesn't happen much these days, but...
I should hope not.
Never.
We've got another question from Ian in Kenya. Apart from spirulina, could we add other things like moringa powder, which I think has lots of vitamin C in, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I don't know. I'm not familiar with that product, but I don't see why not. I really don't see why not. As long as it hasn't got a really strong flavour, that's going to overpower the fish, then yeah, I don't think there's any reason not to be able to add anything like that. It's a great idea.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you.
Okay, we're nearly there. We're nearly coloured. And then I'm just going to pop mine onto a baking tray and just pop them straight into the, well, I'll let them cool down for a bit, but then they can just go straight into the fridge and be ready to put in the oven tonight. So just bear in mind, if they're fridge cold and you're putting them straight into the oven, they're going to take a few minutes longer to come back up.
Yes.
So I've sort of said, I think I've said about 12 to 15 minutes. But if you're doing them, I would sort of say 15 to 20 minutes. Keep an eye on them. All you're doing when you're putting them in the oven is just making them hot, basically. Okay, and just kind of finishing the crisping off process. So, we're nearly there. Can you see you've got some nice colour on the top?
Yes, they look
nice and golden rather than so green, which will be a bit more pleasing to the eye for small children potentially. Jules, good luck.
Oh, I can see Julia's. They're looking good.
Lovely, well done, guys.
Juliet.
Oh, yes, nice colour there, Jules. You're going to have 2 for lunch by the looks of things and save the rest. Yeah. Brilliant. I think actually adding spirulina to salad dressing is a really good idea because I just think it's a lovely colour. To make your dressing really green is really nice anyway, because quite often I just put some spinach or something like that in a salad dressing, just as a bit of an extra boost and flavour, and obviously really good for you. So I think that this would be, I think that would be one of the best ways to use that as an for adults anyway. I'm not sure that children would really eat dressed salad very easily, but right, I think we're there.
Brilliant.
Let's make sure they've got a bit of colour underneath.
Oh, we've got another message saying that people in Western Kenya don't have ovens, but can they just fry them to cook them?
100%, you just keep frying them.
Yeah.
For a little bit longer on a lower heat, so they're not going to burn on the top. So just fry them in a little bit more oil, a little bit of a lower heat, and probably for kind of 5 minutes, 4 to 5 minutes, rather than 2 to 3 on each side. So I always used to make them that way actually, but I just prefer them once they've gone in the oven. It's also sort of, you know, it's not as high maintenance, is it, just to put them in the oven and forget about them for 10 minutes. But it's absolutely fine to do that, yeah. So I can definitely smell that these are about perfect now. So, okay, so we're going to pop them, save on washing up later. I don't need to put them on a different plate. Straight on to the baking tray. Lovely and golden, ready for later. Okay, Nick, I'm done. If anyone's got any more questions, then feel free to show your video or whatever you wanted to do now.
Okay, well, I'll play the video in a moment if I can actually get it to work this time. Sorry about that earlier. And if anyone has any more questions, just pop them into chat and we'll look at it at the end.
Too much, but...
They look amazing, Dan.
Okay.
If you're in London, I could have popped over for tea.
Good.
I might make it if I leave.
There's not enough for you, so you might not have been invited.
Thank you so much, Dan. We'll come back to you right at the end, okay? Yeah. All right, let's have a go now and see if I can actually share this video. I just want to say a thank you actually to Kennington Overseas Aid, which Sylvia, who was helping us with cooking tips just now, was a part of, as they were instrumental in getting NASIO set up with our spirulina project. So have a look at this. This is our spirulina production farm in Kenya. I hope that's working.
Spirulina departments where we produce our spirulina. This spirulina was started in 2015 September, and the main purpose of starting this project was to support the malnourished children in NASIO, the vulnerable families in the community and outside the community. We also have the main benefits of spirulina. Spirulina has got beta-carotene, vitamin A for those people who have eye problems. It also boosts body immune system. It also boosts CD4 count of HIV victims. For example, we have the 2 guardians here who are being supported by NASIO Trust using spirulina. Initially, they were so weak before using spirulina. From last year in July, they started using spirulina. Right now, they are strong. My body was malnourished. I also have good appetite and I'm doing my job very well.
Harvesting is here where we press our spirulina to drain all the waters and then get the paste.
Okay, after getting the paste, this is our spaghetti muganda. Then we place it here, then we start blending. This is our blender where we blend the spaghetti to powder.
So after that process, this is the powder. Now this powder, we can package it in powder form or in capsule form. We also have the moringa capsules. And the reason why we do this, spirulina has got no vitamin C and moringa has vitamin C. After the process of packaging, we always do the description to our beneficiaries, how they have to take it daily.
So hopefully that's given you a little bit of an insight into the spirulina farm in Kenya. And now I'm just going to try and share just a couple of slides with you before we finish. So there's a couple of more pictures of us.
If you're trying to get swimsuit ready, no matter what the season is.
Okay, sorry, I don't know why that's playing. That's supposed to have stopped. Apologies, everybody. I'm having one of those days, I think. So spirulina, as we've learned, is a valuable aid, and we use it in maintaining the health of the children and the communities we support in Kenya. But it also really helps us because we're able to sell our spirulina, and this creates income. And the money brought in from selling the spirulina goes to the guardians. Some of our guardians in the photos here work in the spirulina production farm. So this is one of the ways in which we can work to break the cycle of poverty. And here's just a photo. You can see Sylvia in the middle on the left there in her black t-shirt. And that's just a photo of the Kennington Overseas Aid charity that really helped us in setting up.
Yeah, well, we did raise the money, actually. I think all the money for it. I think we raised 30,000. But I tell you what, that lovely little video you've just seen, I think a lot of people in Kennington, I could put it on Kennington Connected, I could share it with some of the, you know, the people who helped raise that money, and I think they'd love to see that.
They'd love to see that. It would be wonderful if you could.
It's made.
Absolutely. Well, this will be shared on our YouTube site in due course, so we'll be able to send you the link for that, and you can share it around. So it'd be lovely for them to see that video as well. And here's just a picture you saw Dan holding up the book. Sylvia wrote the book. It's full of wonderful background information about NASCIO and how the farm was set up, as well as containing lots of delicious recipes, which were created by Helen Peacock, actually. And the book's available to buy from the NASCIO Trust. You can purchase it by visiting the website address shown here. And it's £4.99. All the proceeds from the book go directly to our work in Kenya. So you might want to consider that as perhaps a very nice Christmas present for those of you who are organised enough to be thinking about Christmas presents. It's quite diddy and small, so it's easy to post.
If you don't know anything about Helen, Helen was when the Oxford Times was a very respected paper, she was the Oxford Times food writer. For 25 years, every week, she put a recipe in the paper. And I mean, one I'd recommend, again, it's a 5-minute recipe in there, a nice little lunch. It's called grilled figs and gorgonzola. Now, I don't eat meat. I mean, she puts it with some Parma ham, you see what I mean, as well. So if you like meat, you can just add the ham. But literally, the fig stuffed with gorgonzola, just brilliant. And you just put a tiny little bit of spirulina on the top, which just makes it so healthy. And in fact, all the recipes in the book will work without spirulina. But it's just that the spirulina really is such a healthy ingredient to add. So yes, so Helen did spend a lot of time and effort doing that. And there is a nice smoothie in there, which was as a result of a competition, because we went into St. Swithin's school. And I just want to endorse what Danny said, because these kids, the kids whose one was chosen, what we did is they had to be blind tasted. So another class came in to test, you know, the smoothies that the children in one class had made and in pairs. There was no name on them, only a number. And the one that got the most popular were 2 boys who, quite honestly, had not been great academic or sporting achievers, and it really did an awful lot for their egos. So their recipes in the book, and it is actually a really good smoothie.
Is that the avocado one?
Yes, I called it avocado because they put avocado apples.
That's the recipe that I fancied most.
Yes, that's right. So, but yeah, so I mean, I really would recommend, you know, Helen, because she knew what she's doing. I mean, she's a professional cook. She cooked all her life. You know, she started actually running a pub in Woodstock when pubs didn't usually serve food, and she served baked potatoes with 29 different toppings. So she's quite a character, Helen. So I think, you know, honestly, I can recommend her recipe.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sylvia. We'll have to wrap up in a moment, but I just want to say another massive thanks, of course. Thanks, Sylvia, for joining us and helping with the cookbook side of things. Thanks to Danny for sharing her delicious recipe.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, it looks great.
Thanks for cooking with me and joining me.
It's been wonderful to see you. And usually at this point, we would be saying, join us next month for our next Zoom event, but we're not having one in August because it's the summer holidays and we're going to be celebrating 20 years of the NASCIO Trust with a special Thanksgiving service and a family fun day in Dorchester. So everyone's welcome to join us at that. And I'll look forward to welcoming you in September to our final Zoom event of the series, which is quite an exciting one. We're going to be having Stephen Venables do a talk for us, and he's going to show some incredible photos. You might know his name. He's been on television many times. He's written countless books, and he was the first Briton to climb Everest with no special equipment. So he's got some exciting stories to tell, and he's climbed all the areas in Kenya, and he's going to be talking to us, especially about his Kilimanjaro climbs as well. Thank you. I've got some thank yous coming up on the chat here. Thank you from Ian and thank you from Nancy. Just see if there's any more. Thank you for the session. Nancy is saying, can't wait to see Julia and Juliet's cooking. Well, we had a little sneaky peek, didn't we, of what they'd made before they went in the oven. So, oh, here's Juliet's. There we go. Lovely.
Oh,
looking nice and brown and healthy. They look delicious. I'm feeling very hungry now, and I'm wishing I could have made some just now, but I hope everyone's enjoyed today. Thanks for joining us. And we'll hopefully see you here again in September. Do keep an eye on our Facebook page and do keep an eye on our e-newsletters because we're always sending information out about events coming up. If you're not on our e-newsletter, you can just join up by visiting our website, which is thenaciotrust.org. And there's a sign up button at the bottom of every page on the website. So if you pop your email address in there, you'll receive our news and information. But I think everyone's probably desperate to get to eat their fish cakes and to go out in the sun and enjoy that. So I'll say a thank you now. Thanks, Danny, and thanks everyone for joining us, and see you again soon.